So we had a rally across the board on Friday, and we had a general uptick in the market mood as we edge towards the trading week. Did this translate into Africa?
A lot of the world had a good week last week. If you look at the MSCI World Index, that was up about 4.4%. Even emerging markets had a pretty decent week, up about 3.7%. Some of that did actually translate into good returns across African markets, but not every market actually felt it. In Egypt, the market managed to come up about 5%. We did see stocks like Orascom TMT go up in excess of 13% in US dollars. I think the biggest issue
so where's the buy? Sorry, you're about to delve into that, yeah.
Well, they just announced a pretty decent dividend payout, which the market, I think, was quite happy about, and some of the prospects for the business are also quite bright. So a lot of people responded favorably to that.
Egypt obviously has a new president right now, Mohamed Morsi, and he's going to face a tough battle getting buy-in when it comes to the military rulers on that end. He's looking to get lawmakers back into parliament. That's going to be a tough one. But to what extent is market trade and market sentiment in Egypt right now linked towards what's taking place on the political front?
A lot of investors, foreign investors who've been looking at the market have had markers in place. So there are a lot of things they've wanted to see to prove that progress was actually taking place post the revolution. So one of those key things, one of those key markers was the transition of power from the SCAF, or the Supreme Council of Armed Forces, to an elected president who will then head government and set up policy. So that important marker actually came through towards the end of last week. The inauguration was on Sunday, and that has been well received. I think we will see this translate into relatively positive performance for companies on the stock market as we go forward. But undoubtedly, the operational challenges remain in place for quite a lot of the businesses.
Yeah, we'll definitely be tracking that. But down south, one of our neighbours, Namibia, also up on the week, up by 4.4%, but a good month for Namibia, up by 5.3%. Key drivers for this market right now?
As mentioned earlier, I think the huge impetus in EM also came through in South Africa. So quite a number of the dual-listed stocks enjoyed that uptick as well. You could see Shoprite in Namibia was up about 13%. But some of the local stocks as well performed quite well. We saw Bidvest Namibia going up about 6.5%, and Namibian breweries being bid up as well, up 5% in dollars. So that was some very strong performance coming through there, which I think the market took quite well.
A stock in Namibia right now that you're most bullish on?
We still like FNB Namibia. They are undoubtedly, world class or best in class when it comes to understanding distribution models that best suit the environment in which they're operating in. They've been able to keep their costs down relative to their peers, which has all come to benefit them at the bottom line quite significantly. They have lost, I think, the bank assurance or buy-in into the bank assurance part of the business, but I'm sure they'll come up with something that will replace or enhance the gap that actually came from that.
Not everyone had a good week last week when it comes to stock exchanges. Uganda down 2.1%, 1% for the week. So, of course, making it the worst performing bourse. Anything geared towards global sentiment, because, of course, a very small market there, liquid factors that play into it. So what's hitting this market?
You're very right about liquidity disallowing global trends to be transmitted into the local market. What we did see, however, was the inflation number coming out, which was not as low as expected. It was still up about 18% year on year to the end of June. And I think people were expecting a much smaller number in that respect. So some profit taking did come across the market, and there was a bit of weakness in the currency as well. So that US dollar performance number was actually down. But by and large, a lot of the gains that they've picked up in the year to date, and indeed in the month of June, remain intact.
Let's look at the banking sector, because Stanbic Bank is going to surpass the Bank of Uganda when it comes to capital, a required minimum capital, and looking to have that capital base of 51 billion shillings. That's by issuing more bonus shares. Is this good for shareholders of Stanbic Bank right now?
To the extent that it increases liquidity, I think that's a good thing, and it also means that people can trade increasingly smaller portions of their holdings. Ultimately, you want to see the bank continue to deploy capital sensibly into the market in which they operate and take on risks that they can actually manage and keep the NPL experience as low as possible.
We certainly can't talk about Uganda if we don't talk about the interest rate decision. Do you have any views on that right now, on the positive effects that cutting interest rates is having on the economy? Do you think they're managing this interest rate cutting cycle adequately, because the key lending rate sitting at 20% and of course inflation sitting at 18%, so you are getting a real return there?
Absolutely, but having said that, 20% is still a very high cost of borrowing. Yeah. And over time, if inflation allows, it would be good to actually see this rate come down. Central Bank has been watching inflation and continues to do so. We did see some very good stewardship of the interest rate environment last year, and I do not doubt that they'll be able to manage that coming into 2012 again. So it will be interesting to see what happens at their next meeting, which is quite soon, but we're expecting a cut.
We certainly are waiting for that interest rate decision, and of course they cut it at the latest meeting, so of course market waiting for that number. Thank you so much for coming into studio today. Fungai Tarirah, Portfolio Manager at Momentum Asset Management.